There we go. Now it shows we're live. We got a good connection. As I was telling you off camera, I'm a little bit out of my element because usually I'm inside my office and I got a really nice setup and it looks like I got a fireplace going on behind me and all that kind of stuff. So it's it's a little bit different this time when you know when you have you're kind of out of your element a little bit. But it looks like we made it work. So I'm out here in Georgia. This is my first time now. This is Juanita, and I'm going to let you introduce yourself here in just a second. But this is our first time being able to do an international podcast. Well, I guess I can't say that. I have done one more. I have a student that is I did a podcast. He's in Papua New Guinea. He's a missionary, and it was amazing that he could do a podcast from where he was. Internet is so sporadic, but for some reason for that hour, he was able to get on, and we did it from Papua New Guinea. Isn't that amazing what technology can do? So
phenomenal, absolutely.
Yeah. So, all right. So I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself, Juanita, and and go ahead and tell everybody where you're from and your background a little bit, and we're going to get started.
Yes, thank you so much, Mark. It's always so lovely to engage with you. I'm very happy to be here today. We have a lot in common and we always have conversation that flows. So I'm looking forward to this interview. My name is Juanita Kapp and I'm from South Africa. And I met Mark through AMA and the CLA. And I have a podcast named Meticulous Moments through which I facilitate community upliftment through leadership development.
So there's a good time difference. So right now I'm in Georgia. It's 9:00 in the morning in Georgia. What time is it in South Africa?
It is 4 p.m. in the afternoon. Quite a difference.
Yeah, quite a difference in that. So tell me about South Africa. I don't know much about it. So is it have weather like we do? Is your winters different than ours? How does that all look?
Oh, we have lovely, lovely weather here in South Africa. I live between the mountains. So actually, I don't have just one, 4 seasons. I actually just have two because it's summer. It's either very, very hot or it goes to the other extreme. It's very, very cold. So in spring, we technically have summer. And in fall, we technically already go into winter. So I'm happy because we just exited winter, but I think you're about to enter winter now.
Yeah, it's been kind of nice here. So in California, I understand my kids were just telling me that it's raining a little bit in California because it's been pretty dry for a while. And today and tomorrow, I think there's going to be hitting rain. But I've hit rain here in Georgia for the last couple of days. And it's kind of nice rain here. You know what I mean? It's where you can still roll your windows down while it's raining because it's just, it's a little bit humid, but I've always enjoyed that. So yeah, the weather down here has been awesome too. So let's get started. Let's talk about your podcast a little bit, what that is, and the kind of guests that you have on, and what direction did you do, and how long have you had it?
Yes, thank you so much, Mark. I've had it for a couple of months. I actually started formulating, what I wanted to do with my business a few years ago. I started in 2013, but because of the full-time ministry, I was always so busy and occupied with the church work that I kind of always pushed it aside. And then 2020 happened and COVID struck and everything was closed. We were on lockdown. So that's where I really took a time of reflection. And I decided I was really going to put, the effort into my business. And with that, after all the traumatic things I went through in COVID, I started the podcast because of the ministry. I've always been in leadership training, and I've also given extensive training in the corporate world in the leadership arena. So I decided to start the podcast because I feel there's always been this chasm between the salted leaders and the upcoming young leaders. And I feel like COVID kind of made that bigger for us. We no longer had weekends where we went for team building. We were restricted because not everybody was able to go online. And we really are, we fell behind on our projections for the leadership training. So that was something just born out of a heart of, just wanting to bring community upliftment. And I speak to people from different fields of study. I have students that have started Eclipse artificial intelligence business. They reached out to me. I'm going to interview them. I speak to pastors. I speak to captains in the Navy. I have Desmond Walker coming in. He was deployed, but he's now back. Authors, you name it, life coaches. So I really take all of those golden nuggets that we really uncover and I put it out there. And I know the podcast will find the right people because there are upcoming young leaders that need that guidance. And that is what we are trying to bring them.
So you start this during COVID? Is that what you're saying? That this was something
I
that was born out of COVID, or your thought process was out of COVID?
Yes, yes. It started to brew in my mind in COVID, and then I started to formulate and put it together. I had a very rocky road in COVID. My mom passed away from stage 4 brain cancer. And with the ministry that started failing due to the closed church, my marriage fell apart, and I was busy with my master's, which thank God I was able to complete. So when I came back, I was able to reach my mom because we were on full lockdown and I live 9 hours away from where she lived. They actually gave her 3 weeks to live and we were going to be on lockdown for 3 weeks. So I just asked the Lord, I said, God, please let me just reach her and say goodbye and let her remember me when I reach her. So God gave her extended time. She ended up living more than 3 months and I could spend the last 5 days with her. And when I went to her, when I came back after her words to me, on her deathbed, I just started to live with intention and I came back and I love hiking. So I went up the mountain that I normally hike on and there's a big rock that looks like a lion. And I sat on that rock and I said, well, God, I don't have a father. I don't have family. It's you and me now. So what will we do? And that's where Meticulous Moments, the podcast, was born. So I've been working at it, formulating how I want to shape it. And so the last few months, I just kicked off and started, and it's just been a lovely ride.
So you do kind of live interviews like what we're doing here today? Is that correct?
I don't do live. I do pre-recorded because of the time differences. I
Ah,
work with people from all over the globe. So sometimes it's 2 a.m. in the morning and then we are only able to do an interview. So I pre-record and then I edit and I put it on all my social media platforms.
so you pre-record
Yes.
yours, and then sometimes that's good anyway. I've done a few of those pre-recordeds, and then live, because some things go live, and they go haywire. We had a rough
Yeah.
one. Jesse Cruz and I had a rough one because his internet was so spotty. I was like,
Oh,
oh man, it's just always so. It's just one of those things that happen. There's just no way getting around it. When you're,
technology.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is
Jesse
definitely
was
that.
also on my podcast. He's amazing, by the way. I love, love, love him.
Yeah, he's a good dude. He's a good guy. I've met a lot of good people through that podcast. It's hard. I saw that yesterday. Even what was supposed to be a virtual event. It's very hard to compete with to do a virtual event when you're able to be inside the house and have the energy was what they had. I mean, you saw the energy
Yeah.
yesterday. That's
Yeah.
really hard to compete with. And it's almost impossible, to be honest with you, to be able to try and get your point across virtually when not everybody's even paying attention. But you always have this live audience when you're competing live, even if it's
Yeah.
5 or 6 people, right? And
I agree.
it's just a different energy. I'm not surprised that not one virtual person won yesterday, because
Yes.
you just cannot compete with that at all. I knew that watching
Yeah.
it, you know what I mean? And I think the right guy
Yeah.
won. I mean, it's it's amazing that the guy that's kind of doing God's work and he needed money, all of a sudden he wins. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things that uh that that those spiritual things, I can't even put a thing on.
Yeah.
I've witnessed it so many times. When God shows up and at the right time, and somebody needs some kind of money to further some young guys along, and then
Yeah.
that happened yesterday, and it was pretty awesome. He's going to be on next week.
Oh,
Um,
lovely. It was a blast. It was
yeah,
really a blast.
yeah.
Yeah.
I told him that uh, you know I've got some powerhouses that I want on this month too, right? I wanted you on because I wanted another international one, and I wanted to get your input about what you felt about that yesterday, as
Yes.
being a facilitator, what it looked like
Yes.
from your side, because you have to be totally engaged the whole time because you're kind of running the show. Was it
Yes.
hard? Was that hard to do, being a facilitator of a virtual event?
I absolutely enjoyed it. I had about 100 tabs open, and I was logged in with my laptop and my phone, because on the one end I'm talking to speakers and attendees on Messenger, and on the other hand I'm on the chat within the Zoom. So, and then you've got people coming in and out, and some people didn't, look in their junk folder or in their emails. They couldn't find the connection email. So the speaker is going on, the chat is happening, someone's in Messenger, someone is calling me on the phone, and then the audio goes away. So it was just lovely.
What
It was an
right?
experience.
And I was one of those. I was one of those, right? I was, because you were. I'm asking you too, and I'm like, I know she's got a million questions coming at her, and I got to ask her a couple questions more. I knew that was that's quite an undertaking. I thought you guys did a wonderful job though yesterday. Even though that there's some kind of there's always a glitch when it
Yeah.
comes to internet, right? There's always, it's
Yeah.
just, and it never fails that it's at the inappropriate times, and it's just one of
Yeah.
those things that you have to go with. And I think at this point, we know as um, we know as facilitators,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just what it is. It is what it is.
It is what it is. You make the best of it. You wing it.
That's that's right. Yeah, yeah. I mean, Jose says hi to us. We have a
Good
face.
morning, Jose.
Yeah, there it says Facebook user, so I'm not really sure who it is. Mike Favors on too, but that
Rock
could be
stars. I
him.
don't know.
Yeah, I'm not.
That
Yeah,
is
I'm not.
Michael's
I don't know
favorite.
who. Yeah, I don't know who to say hi to on that or not. So Jose is Jose came on my show very early on, and
Oh,
I told him we have to do another one now because he's
yeah.
totally different. He's a totally different dude now than what he was.
Oh,
He
wonderful.
said that
Yes.
because that's comments from Mike Favor.
I knew it.
He said he's it's good. Dennis is saying we got quite a few people popping on this morning,
Hey,
after a
Dennis.
long yeah. I'm gonna get Michael Favor, and him and I are kindred spirits. I know it. He's a no nonsense guy. Him and I are gonna have a fun talk. I can guarantee
Yeah.
it.
It's going to be badass.
Yes, it's gonna be. Yeah, my show's called Real Talk. It's gonna be some real talk that morning. I can
Yeah.
guarantee it. So
I will look forward to that one.
so that's for sure. So we got into your now we got into your so you said a couple things here in the beginning, right? And
Mhm.
with your mom passing away, which is really hard. You
Yes.
know, if you've heard a lot of my stories, death has been something that I've had to experience quite a bit in my school. I mean, I've more than I really care to. And then I had a very close nephew, my sister's middle son, who was a firefighter. He died of brain cancer at
Oh,
35 years old and didn't see his last.
wonderful.
He has 5 children, and he didn't get to see his last baby girl before he passed away. And
Yeah.
that was a very hard. That's still hard on my family.
Mhm.
It's changed my
Mhm.
mother completely. And so dealing with that kind of brain cancer is this. And I think you've heard my story too. I wrote it in my book.
Wow.
He was a Marine that died of brain cancer also, and we watched him deteriorate, and to the point where he can only communicate by squeezing hands, where he
Mhm.
couldn't talk
Mhm.
anymore. And
Yeah.
then he's the one that has an autistic son that's blind and nonverbal, sitting on
Mm.
a couch on the opposite side. He's the one I talk about quite often. I was in the room when he died, and he was like, that child knew his
Yeah.
dad died, and how he knows. That's the only way. There's no way
Mm.
that there's not a spiritual connection when you see
Yeah.
stuff like that. It's just impossible to say that it's any other way. So
Yeah. I
I
agree.
yeah, so I feel for you, man. That's a very nasty cancer, and I've experienced that myself. It sucks. And
It's
you know,
horrible.
when
It's horrible.
it kind of wrenched me when you said that. So your mom, it just brought back my memory of my nephew Cody and what he had,
Yeah.
what he had to endure and leave 5 children behind. But you know, you know what's God's timing is not our timing, and what His
Mm-hmm.
understanding is not our understanding. At some point, one
Amen.
day, it will be. We're here for a
Yeah.
short time, but we're going to be together for a long time. So it is what it is. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I agree completely. Awesome.
So, so,
Yeah. Yeah.
so we were talking too that did you had a rough patch that you said that
Yeah.
your marriage had fallen apart and you were kind of working on what with your mom dying, and that's a lot of stuff thrown at you. And I think you do what
Yes.
most leaders do is they throw themselves into something. You got two kinds of people. They're going to throw themselves into despair and depression, or they're going
Yeah.
to, okay, I'm going to make something out of my life experiences
Yes.
to
Yes.
help others. And I think, I spoke about that yesterday, living other people's mistakes help us not make our own, and it's a lot less painful for us, right? So,
Absolutely.
and I encourage everybody to, listen to what other people have to say, because it takes a lot of less stress off us as a whole, for sure. So with this,
True.
now your children, how many children do you have?
Two.
You have two children. So
Yes.
are they young adults? Are they young teenagers? Where are they at in life?
My daughter is 19 and my son is 10.
19 and 10.
Yeah.
So you have a kind of a semi-adult. That's what I called mine. Of course, I call my 21-year-old semi-adult too. I told them you can be full adults when you fully take care of yourself. Then you are a
Yeah.
what I would call a full adult. They had we had we had Michael. I have a son that's married. Michael, my son's, he's married, and
Yeah.
I've got the rest of my adult children at home with me. And the how did that how does your podcast, do they relate to anything in your podcast? Because I get quite a few questions. I started my podcast really not because it's gotten a lot bigger than I ever expected it to be. And
Yeah.
I thought, well, the reason I started it, and I didn't do live interviews like this. I did
Yes.
mostly audio in the beginning, and I would
Oh.
speak about my journey, about my 75 hard, and my
Yeah.
the weight loss and martial arts, and then I started the interview process, and I was like, this is kind of cool, and I started to kind of have a legacy for my kids. That's why I did it. So when I'm gone,
Mm-hmm.
they can go back and look at um, who I've interviewed, and now we're 100 plus strong in interviews, and met some awesome people. And then the interviews I
Wow.
have with them, and I watch them even grow in life now. It's almost like the martial arts Matt, right? It's like, wow, when I
Yeah.
interviewed him in the beginning, he's just a totally different animal now, right? And it's just fun to watch now. How do you able to help this with your children? Do you feel it's a legacy for them?
Well, first, before I answer that, I just want to say, you were talking about, telling your children they are semi-adults. If you really want to upset your 19, 20, 21-year-old, you can just tell them their brains only end up developing by the age of 24. That gets them every time. So just as a joke. But I was in the ministry. I've been in the ministry for 15 years. My children were in the ministry with me, Mark. They saw so many things. They went through so many things. They saw the best side. They saw the worst side. We love doing everything together. We do martial arts together, all three of us. That's our family time. And when it comes to work, I'd say my 19-year-old, she doesn't like social media at all. She doesn't want to be involved with anything to do with the podcast. She's finding her feet. She's setting up her life. But my son always comes and asks me, "Who are you interviewing next? Who's this guy? Who's that lady? What do they do?" So he's still young. And with them, I foresee my daughter going into, starting her own business one day. But with my son, I can definitely say he's probably going to go study something. But I think he's going to open his own dojo one day because that's one of our dreams. That's what we want to do. So He's a little bit more like me than she is, but it's all good. We make a lovely family structure and we have fun. She'd rather spend time with her friends. He and I, we jump in the car, we go hiking. So we more the same, but we always, of course, make space for each other's differences. So we have fun, but I think with the exposure to the ministry and the people all the time in every aspect, I think my daughter decided just to take a step back and to take a breather.
Got it. Now, well, you
Yeah.
says so in your ministry now. When you say you've been in the ministry now, I read through your bio and it says that you sing. So, I mean, do you
Yes, I
songwrite
do.
and do you sing right? Do you write songs also? Do you sing? Was that
Yeah.
is that where you shined in the ministry? Were you more of a on the musical side, or where were you
Oh,
at inside your church?
yes, yes. I started as a youth leader. Then I became a youth pastor. Then I started studying and I became an assistant pastor. Then I continued my studies and I became an ordained pastor. So I'm an ordained pastor. But through the years, I've also been singing and songwriting and I've also led worship. I've functioned in every single ministry in the church that you can think of. And what I love to do is I love to go to that part of the ministry, build it up, and then facilitate leadership and discipleship in that area and give it over to someone else, delegate it over to someone else to run. But my love is for public speaking, preaching, and then doing worship.
So, did you preach?
Yes, I preach every Sunday. I can't even remember. I can count on my two hands the Sundays that I haven't preached in 15 years.
Ah, so that was that's that that part of it is what makes being able to public speak a lot better.
Yeah.
But now, were you preaching virtually during COVID?
I was. I took everything online. I didn't do visual sermons. I did audios. So I would record it and then I would cut it into smaller pieces because not everybody, had access to online only due to the fact that maybe they didn't have Wi-Fi at the time or they couldn't go out to get data. Life is different in South Africa. So what I did, I knew everybody has WhatsApp. So I would go onto YouTube. I would download YouTube songs and send it on WhatsApp. And also the audio files would be in little, a few minutes at a time so that it could go over in a WhatsApp. So that's basically how we had church for a few months while everything was closed.
Yeah. So, did you find it harder to be online?
With my area, I'd say it was harder, but it
Mhm.
opened on the other side, it opened up a whole new world virtually because I was never online. I used to work in the community, do the footwork, go out. I'm old school. I love doing house visits. I would do house visits. I would be at the schools for openings and prayers. I would always do a Christmas show at the end of the year. The whole town knew about our Christmas show. I would always celebrate Women's Day. So I was very involved with the people. I was never online. And when everything went online, I started attending webinars, and this whole world just opened up, and I met all these wonderful people, including you and everyone from the CLA and the ARMA. So I think it added to my ministry a new element. I still love doing the footwork, but I think my reach is bigger now since it went online.
So, in South Africa, is English the main language, or is it?
Yes.
Do you speak other languages or not?
Yes, yes. English is the main language, but I speak Afrikaans and a little bit of Xhosa as well.
So, yeah, that's interesting to me because I have never. Uh, I guess I've just not known much about it. You know what I mean? So part of that is already uh, awesome to think. Now, were you born and raised there, or did you move there?
No, I was born and raised. I had a pure South African upbringing. I grew up, I was born in Lutrigard and I grew up in the Suidpansberg Mountains. So my mother and my grandfather and my mother, I never had my grandmother and my grandfather, I never had a dad. We lived on game farms. So I remember as a little child that people from all over the globe would come hunting and they would hunt the buck and they would let us skin the buck for them and we dry the skins for them, and prepare the meat and everything, and it was a sport. And I met a lot of people, when I was a small child. So I had a wonderful, we were in the bush. We were on buckies. We learned how to shoot when we were young. We could track animals, and it was like purely, you can't get more South African than that.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. All right, so you've you talking about that. That's just so weird. Last night we were at a low country boil, and
Yeah.
I've got a couple friends that are down here also that are visiting, and they just went deer hunting last night, and he caught
Oh, wow.
he got 2 deer last night. So it's the same thing. It, they did that. We sent them to the processor, which is
Yeah.
pretty awesome that you've done. So you've skinned them, you've
Yeah.
processed meat, and,
Yes.
and I can just see you with your bloody knife.
Yeah.
The voice doesn't match that, but I don't know.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know. You never know. I say that all the time. Never judge a book by its cover, because they can probably cut you open anyway.
Yeah, my sensei always says, no one would ever expect me walking down the street, and if they want to attack me, they're going to get the surprise of their life.
Well, so you said that you've always had a dream, right, to have a martial arts school.
Yeah.
And so I think you've probably heard my story. I started my martial arts school as a ministry. That's what we did. We started at church. And I'm going to tell you something. If that dream comes true, that's what you guys want to do, is have a martial arts school.
Yeah.
You're going to reach more people in that martial arts school than you ever did in church. It's the weirdest thing that I have. It's the weirdest thing, because you kind of meet people where they are. And in that setting, it's very intimate setting, as you know, because you're the instructor, and you have their interest and their family in mind. And I can't tell you how many people, I don't preach while I'm there, but certainly people know where I stand. And when they need something, they'll come to my office, and we'll speak about it. I've reached more people in a martial arts school than I ever did in church. And so it's just been it's going to be one of those things that I think that's the beauty of a martial arts. My church is the same way. You're welcome before you belong, right? And like, some people are just kind of, they're fishing around, and it's like, you need to meet people where they are, then you need to allow them to belong, right, in the setting, before they believe sometimes. So it's having that is going to be something else. Now let's talk about your martial arts. When did you start that? When did you start your training?
6 years ago, and I haven't looked back. I love it. I absolutely love it. It's just been a journey, Mark. It changes you. It changes your outlook on life, and it's just the best thing that could have ever happened to me.
So 6 years in now, what is it you study? Is it a Shotokan system that you're studying?
Yes, well, we do a lot of various forms in the dojo. We do Shorin Karate, so that's the kata and the kumite. That's what we compete in, but that's very small to what we do the rest of the year. We compete, and we practice a few months before the nationals, but that's not the only thing we do. We learn the bunkai of the kata. We know what the move means and why, how it's going to affect the opponent, and how to properly do it, and why you are doing it. And then we also do weapons, bladed and wooden. And I love jiu-jitsu. I know some people are not very fond of jiu-jitsu because of the close proximity. I know if people have an issue with closeness with other people, that might be interference. But I love jiu-jitsu. We do grappling. That's when we start on standing. And then we do MMA as well, and kickboxing and boxing, because those two things are different. and then a lot of fitness and self-defense, of course.
So you have a which is awesome, by the way, because I think I have my traditional background is Tong Soo Do, which is a Korean system,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's where I started. The Chuck Norris system is where my highest rank lies, and so I started in a traditional style. That
Wow.
is, I think that when it comes to when I'm listening to you say, and I love jujitsu, but then again, I like to get up and personal because that's what
Yes.
self-defense is all about.
Yeah.
Because when you have to defend yourself, trust me on this, you are going to be up and personal.
Yeah.
And violence is
You
up and
can't hip
personal.
throw
I can tell you
someone
that.
from there.
That's
Yeah.
yes, it is. That is true. So it's good to know that I hear that you are, that you got some ground, and a lot of females don't not big on it. That's for sure. But I think it's
Yeah.
super important that they learn something because you
Mm-hmm.
believe it or not, you can defend yourself from down there. You don't want to be down
Yes.
there all the whole time, but you can certainly defend
Yeah.
yourself from down there, which is an awesome thing. So it's good
Yeah.
to hear that you've done some MMA. Have you black belted yet, or where are you at in your training?
I was already gonna be black belt by now, but because of the COVID, we are 2 years behind. So we never stopped training, but for those 2 years, we stopped grading, and we also didn't have, our nationals and everything. So COVID kind of put that back. So I'm on purple two now, which leads to brown, which leads to black. So if it wasn't for COVID, we would have been there already. But luckily, we could train online during the COVID, and I have my own little gym slash dojo here at home. So in addition to the online classes that we had during lockdown, the kids and I also trained even more, I'd say, than before, because not only did we have more time, but we realized, you can either sit down and give up, or you can just get up and perfect your skills. So yeah, it almost there. I can't wait.
Yeah, it was pretty unique for us also. We went online right away. We
Yeah.
were down for maybe 4 or 5 days, and within 4 or 5 days we had a website up that people could log into, and we were live
Wow.
doing live classes. Now that was the reason the compliments to you guys the other day. I'm going to tell you right now that during COVID, teaching a class,
Yeah.
I'm pretty animated on the mat and I'm pretty intense on the mat.
Yeah.
And trying to, but I command a presence when you're face to
Yes.
face.
Yeah.
When you are live and you are virtual,
Yes.
and the mic is muted, and mom's in the kitchen cooking dinner and yelling at him about one thing, me trying to keep everybody focused when you've got a
Yeah.
screen of 30 kids in class and
Yeah.
they're half in and half out is just it was so hard, right?
Yeah.
I was exhausted teaching virtual classes. It
I
took
can
a lot out of
imagine.
me. It took so much out of me because I'm still like, let's go, man. Eat your burpees. I'm like, Jojo,
They're running
stop
around.
goofing around. Jojo, leave the dog alone. And then you're over here, and man, I'm just like, I'm losing it, right?
Yeah.
And I had so much, it took me so much energy. I was like, man, I can't do back to back to back. So I had to have, we had to take shifts.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
but we did tests. So what we ended up doing with Zoom was pretty unique. What we would do
Yes.
is I'd have 6 or 7 of my black belts.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, we're going to do testing. And what we're going to do is do breakout rooms. Like what Zoom's, how you can break out in Zoom rooms, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I said, so, instructor here, like, my son, Mikey, I said, Mikey, you're going to have this group. I'm going to have this group. I'm going to have this group. And we'd break it down to about 4 kids per 7 people online,
That's
breakout
better.
rooms. They tested. We come back together. We congratulate. And then we would drive around town and drop off their belts and their
Wow.
ranks and their certificates.
Yeah.
And then
Wow.
we would have a belt presentation where the parents and everybody would tie their belts on, and we just kept getting after it. That's how we did it. That's how we survived COVID.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
And
so happy that you did that, because we were set back for 2 years. But luckily we could continue. But I agree with you on the breakout rooms. I mean, you are in the live classes, Mark. You know, even if the little ones are in the live class, you know, you're teaching, and when you look back, one of them has just sat down and he's busy
That's
playing with his belt.
it
So
was
I
such
can
a
just imagine
it was
on
such
Zoom.
a it was such a nightmare. Um and I broke out, I tried to be very innovative on COVID. And so one thing I
Yeah,
would do is I would do virtual mit class. And what I would do, uh I would get in front of the camera and I would have focus mitts on, and I said, okay, we're going to work these now.
yeah,
And so I'm making sure my hands are proper. Like I'd have to be
yeah.
switching feet, so I'd have to be southpaw so people could hit right.
Yes, yeah.
And so I
They
would
mirror
call
you.
off, right. I would say, okay, get in front of the camera. And I would have 30 people in class. And like, I'm the one holding pads for you. And I would say, let's go right, straight, left hook, right, straight,
Yeah.
left hook, right, straight. Okay. Double right straights. And I would let them hit pads with me. Pop, 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 pop.
Wow.
And I tried to be so innovative on what it was like and be motivated. It was a challenge,
Mm,
but you know what? As hard and as much as I bitch and moan about it, it's can you imagine not having it? That would have sucked because we wouldn't have anyway.
absolutely.
We couldn't have did anything. Pretty soon the
Yeah.
parks opened, and then we were holding class in the parks. We were
Yes.
doing
Wow.
we were doing Krav Maga testing in the parks, on the grass, getting after it,
Yeah.
just, when we had to wear masks, we'd wear masks. If we didn't have to
Yeah.
wear masks, we didn't wear them, and just people would catch COVID, and then we would all
Put
rally
the
back
mask back
together.
on.
So it was just, I don't know. It was just, uh,
It was
I,
challenging for me in COVID to go to class with that mask. I have to tell you, because I mean, you know, you get tired and you're sucking air, and this mask is on your face all the time. It was really challenging for me. I don't know.
yeah, I couldn't stand it. In California, it was really hard because what they would
Yeah.
do is they would give you a little. We have different things. LA is the worst, right? And that just happens to be
Oh,
where one of my schools are. We have an LA school, and I have
yeah,
which called a Ventura County, even though they're 15 minutes out. It's a totally different county. And
yeah,
so they would say, okay, you guys, we're good to go, no masks with it. And then within a week, they're like, oh, we're going to shut you down and you're going to have a mask
oh,
on. And that came to a point where I'm like, you know what? We're going to have a cleansing. The ones that want to
yeah,
stick around, stick around. The ones that don't.
yes,
I bought
yeah.
black curtains. I put black
Oh,
curtains up in my studio, and I said, we're
yeah,
having class.
good.
And if you want to wear a mask, you're welcome to. And if you don't want to wear a mask, you're welcome to. Okay.
Yeah.
If I'm doing private lessons and you're more comfortable with me, I'll respect you. Even though I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to wear it, I would respect those and
Yeah.
and do it. But it was a nightmare to
Oh,
get through.
I know.
And
I agree.
from a business perspective, my big school, I'm lucky that I own the property because, that's I didn't have landlords looming over me
Mm,
uh to
yeah.
either collect or I'm going to
Pressure.
owe
Yeah.
thousands and thousands of dollars at the end of the day. So it was
Thank God for that.
yeah, it was a rough thing. So, knowing that you want to have a school one day, I think that, when you're going to notice that when you become I don't know, it's I'm a beacon of light in my town. You know, I've been
Beautiful.
around for so long. I'm kind of part of the furniture, right? It would be weird
Yeah.
not to have the studio in town. That would not be well for people. It would.
Yes, absolutely.
It's just a weird phenomenon. I don't know why it is. People have a weird thing about martial arts anyway, right? They think that there's two things. Oh, you can seriously kick ass or you are super disciplined. One of the two
Yes.
things are what everybody thinks. And
Yeah.
a lot of people think I can't do it. And having a strong woman, I'm going to tell you right now that having a strong female
Yeah.
inside your school
Yes.
is imperative for growth of other women.
Wow.
Men can't grow the women as well as women can. You know what I mean?
I
And
agree.
and I don't know
Mm.
what you think about this. Now, you're being a female, I'll ask you this question. You know, I've
Yeah.
often spoke about my shortcomings once I first started martial arts. I did not really like taking from females. I didn't like taking class. I was super
Yeah.
alpha dog, and you know, wherever my instructor was, I'd drive to the other school to make sure I can take class.
Yeah.
And it was, I remember, I think this is really good for you to talk to other women. I talk to men quite often about my shortcomings as far as this goes, but I remember her vividly. I was in a test as a low rank. I was such a young guy in my 20s, and it happened to be my brother-in-law. And man, I whooped on him pretty good in this test. And I remember the female instructor stopping class and pulling me in the office and saying, would you like me to do that to you? And I remember vividly in my head going, you couldn't do that to me on your best day. Right. I remember this vividly. Right. Uh, I didn't tell her that, but in my head, I'm like, that would be the last fight you
Yeah.
have. Right. And
I love
I
that.
I just totally remember it. And I said, no, ma'am, and da da da, because I didn't want to really be kicked out of the studio. But you know, when I look back at when she asked me, I was like, you know, she wasn't like challenging me. She
Yeah.
was asking me the question,
Mm.
would I like to? Because there was plenty of people, plenty of guys.
Yeah.
I wasn't the
The
baddest
only
man
one.
on the planet. Trust me. And there was plenty of men in there that could give me a run for my money.
Yeah.
And you know, she was very formative at this point. You know, we're very good friends today, but we've spoke it about. So what's your
Yeah.
feel as being a female in a school? Is it intimidating for you? Do you find that men have a hard time taking from you?
Not at all. Not at all. I think in the beginning when I started, it was a little bit odd for me because it is a male environment. It's a male-driven environment. But our sensei is very accommodating. We actually have this rule at the dojo. When you enter the dojo, there's no male or female. You are a karateka. So I actually fight males at the dojo. I've had plenty of black eyes and bloody noses. I remember once we did kickboxing and I kicked my opponent's elbow and I
Yeah.
had a tennis ball on my ankle for a month. So
Yeah.
now we get real there. We fight hard. We go full contact most of the year. And then of course when we go for tournaments, I mean when full contact is here, tournaments is more there. But you can't do self defense. I mean tournaments is pretty, they're pretty. What you do, the kata is pretty and the weapons are pretty, but when you do full contact, you can't defend yourself from here. You'll get punched in the face and you'll be knocked out. So we do full contact MMA most of the year, but I fight men and I enjoy it. I've got a high pain threshold, so I love it, and it's just helped me grow. But I've never encountered opposition at the dojo because I'm a female. I'm a tomboy at heart. I grew up as a tomboy, so I guess the guys see me as one of the guys. They see me as one of the karateka. They don't look at me as a
The-
female.
That well, you know what? The hardcore females in school, you are right. I tell them a lot of times some of the women have bigger testicles than some of the guys. And I use a much more colorful word than that. Trust me.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, I've seen the same thing. I've got some girls that are bad to the bone. My girlfriend,
Yeah.
Kat,
Yeah.
she's a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so I've always kind of get the perspective because I personally, and you're right about that, tournament fighting and kata and stuff like that. Kata's nice and pretty, and
Yeah.
tournament fighting, there's rules. When it comes to
Yes.
the street, there are no
No
rules.
rules.
Well, there's one rule. The one rule is to go home safe. And
Yes.
and the other rule I tell everybody, if you're fighting fair on the street, you ain't fighting. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
there is no fair fights on the street, so anything's open.
Yeah.
So it encourages me to hear that you have a school that is has a traditional background, but it
Yeah,
doesn't mind kicking a little ass at the same time and making sure things are real.
absolutely.
I think that is a awesome type of school. Sounds like the kind of instructor that's right up my alley for sure. So
Awesome.
that's good. Well, I'll tell you what, you're coming on January 6th, right?
I am. I can't wait.
Yes, you are going to be there live. Is that right on that one?
I am. I am going to be
Okay.
there live. Looking forward to it.
So I have told them I'm coming in a day early, and I have told the women, I said, hey, if you want me
Yeah.
to hold a small women's self-defense class, I said, I'll do it. But what you need to do is probably be there with me. So
Oh,
me
yes.
watching me slam bags and knee people isn't as
Yeah.
impressive as having a female in a female class do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Watching somebody like me lift people up with their, or a hook punch into the bags,
Yes.
with power isn't as awesome as it is with you. But I will definitely I will have my gear with me for sure.
Awesome. Awesome.
And make sure you bring your uniform, because if
Yes,
you
I
want,
will. I will. I'll be your guinea pig. We can do. You can
yes,
slam me and
yes.
throw me. I know how to fall.
well, it's not as impressive when I'm slamming women all over the mat. It'd be better
You
if you
can.
slam me around
Okay, I'll hit throw you.
than me slamming you around. People are gonna go look at me and go, "Look at this big jerk!" Like, wow, big deal. You've picked up the young blonde and thrown her on the mat. Yeah,
Yeah, we'll have
I
fun.
I've done that. Listen. It's a rough business, all right?
Yeah.
Because when you fight women, when you got to go against a woman
Uh-huh.
in fighting, I learned this, and I tell my guys this all the time. You're
Yeah.
respectful of the females in class, okay?
Yeah.
There's no reason to be knocking their teeth out or whatever. You can
Yeah.
put pressure on them and stuff like that, but there's no reason to be
Mm-hmm.
knocking
Mm-hmm.
teeth out and
Yeah.
trying to man up and stuff like that. But on the same token,
Yeah.
okay, if if when they go to hitting you,
Yeah. You hit back.
I said I cannot tell you how many times I took some shots because they're girls, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, nah, I'm not gonna hit the girl, I'm not gonna hit, and then she wails off and round kicks me in the face, and I'm like, okay,
Now
you're
it's
gonna
over.
have, I'm like, you're gonna have one of those. The next one is not going to be so pleasant. Trust me.
Uh-huh.
And,
I love it.
and so, I really give it, a lot of respect to having you out there. And that'd be good. I'll be having my mitts too, and bring your stuff, bring your
Awesome.
jujitsu
Yeah.
uniform if you got it.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
going to be gone for 4 days. So if you want to put some rounds in on the ground and let me help you a little bit on your
Yeah.
jujitsu, I will be
That
awesome.
would be great.
It'll be awesome to do that.
Yeah. If we can
We'll
get
get,
mats, we can do a jiu-jitsu demonstration, or we can even do it if it's a wooden floor or something. And
yeah.
I was thinking when you were talking about, bringing it, because you're not going to let someone, even if it's a lady, just keep punching you in the face. Who likes to be punched in the face? No one.
Well, unfortunately, I do like it a little bit. I do eat it up like candy to get punched a little bit. And
Yeah.
so yes, that's one of those things that if Kathy's going, if my girl's going to get, once in a while we'll go and she's got doctor's appointment, says, have you ever been hit? She goes, how do I exactly answer that?
Yeah.
I said, I don't know what to tell you. You're getting black eyes and bloody lips. It is what it is, man. It's but we're gonna have some fun. But
yeah, that's body conditioning, Mark. I mean, we have to have those. Pain is the best teacher, and us women, we might be small, but we are fast. And at the Dojo, yeah, we've got a saying: you go hard or you go home. So going hard, there's gonna be a blue eye or a cracked lip or an ankle with a tennis ball on it.
we are gonna have so much fun. The women in my school are just like this. Okay, they're freaking animals, right? And I don't know if people know this, but the honey badger is the meanest animal on the planet. And when women become honey badgers, they just have no quit. And I tell my guys all the time, I said, do not discount females, because the thing about females, guys kind of have a code. if we're
Mm-hmm.
fighting, we
Yeah.
have a code. Hey, listen, I'm not going to hit you in the balls that much, okay? And or we
I
get the
didn't
best
know
of each
that.
other, right? We get the best of each other, and then we'll shake hands. And I tell them all the time, women have no code. They do not
Yeah.
care. They will go hard on you, and they have no
Yeah.
code for women either. They'll go hard on
Mm-hmm.
women too. They
Yes.
got zero
True.
code. And I said they have to be able to fight. It's just what they have to
Yeah.
be able to do. And you've seen it
Yeah.
or you've heard it, right, Juanita? How many of these women have in the CLA and the AMA? How
Yeah.
many have had
Domestic.
trauma, right? And I just it just I'm just like, wow. Or how many of these
Yeah.
poor female with our kids that got killed by having a gun pulled on them, if they would have had just
Yeah.
an hour class, 1 hour, something
Yeah.
could
Just to
have,
take it away. Yeah. Yeah.
something could have been different. And it just I think, like I
It's
said it
true.
yesterday, I just believe
Yeah.
everybody should have some kind of martial arts understanding. And I know a lot of people won't want to start martial arts because, just what you're talking about, the people are like,
Yes.
man, I'm not going to go in and get bloodied up and messed up. And that doesn't happen out of the gate, right? It's not like that
Not
out of the gate.
every
You know what I mean?
lesson.
It's
Yeah.
there's different stages you go to. And when you're
As you
ready for
grow.
that stage, you'll be ready for it. That's what I tell
Yeah. Yeah.
everybody. I mean, the biggest thing I hear two things. Well, I don't want to get hit and I don't want to be injured. I said, nobody wants to be injured. We're not having
Yes.
UFC contracts in here, okay? We're not.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm here to protect you through the process.
Mm,
You're
mm.
relatively young in the martial arts world, but back in the days when I started
Yeah.
in the early '80s, I mean, it was blood and guts era of the
There
'70s
were
and
no
'80s.
gloves.
There was no gloves. Then
Yeah.
there became knuckle gloves with duct tape around them. So
Yeah.
now
I remember.
the duct tape's cutting you on top of it, and it was hardcore fighting, and it wasn't
Mm.
really, it wasn't like it is today where you're
It's
getting
more
taught
controlled now.
how to
Yeah.
right taught how to fight. You either fight
Mm-hmm.
um or you're a wuss and you don't show back up. That's just how it was. And unfortunately, we lost a lot of good people because we just kind of
Yeah.
beat them out of the studio. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
That's an unfortunate thing that happens, but it's
Yeah.
it's good to hear. Yeah, we're gonna have some fun. So it sounds like your martial
Yay.
arts is something that you really like. Now, how do you like tournaments?
I like tournaments. I go to them because it's a part of my growth. I'm not a professional person that competes. I'm still very new in the competition side. But I want to do it. I want to do martial arts forever, So competition is a part of the development. I like competitions, but it's not my focus always. So I think it's a valuable part, but it's a small part of what we do. And to relate to what you were saying, people think we go to the dojo because we want to beat people up, and that's not true. Martial artists will rather turn away from a fight and walk away because we know we can hurt someone. But if someone picks a fight with me, I'm not going to fight them. But if they put me in a corner, I'm going to hurt them. So it's just about defending yourself. So it's very big. It's very wide. There's the physical side. Then mentally, it makes us very strong. I mean, we have bouts where we do 6 inches. It mentally puts us in a space to give you perseverance. And then competition side is another part. It helps you not to have performance anxiety and to really work on your mindset. So I love competitions, but I don't think we've really had momentum with that because we went in 2019, then we were down for 2 years, and then we went this year. So we kind of, the ball is still kind of rolling. But we had a lovely tournament again this year, so love it. But it's only a small part of what we do.
Yeah, it's good that you put yourself out there. I've told everybody, competitions. It's a very long day. It's a long day of
Oh,
waiting
yes.
for 2 minutes of work, and then
Yeah.
if you're fighting and you get eliminated in the first 20, 30 seconds, you've
Yeah.
wasted your whole day, your $100, and and you go home a loser. So it's I competed so much when I was in traditional karate. Right now, I'm trying to compete. I'm trying to go
Yeah.
down a weight bracket because I want to compete in jiu-jitsu, but
Oh,
it's very hard to find 60-year-olds. I'm 61, so it's very hard to find 61-year-olds that want to get down. And
yeah.
I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if they're in their wheelchairs or what, but I mean, I'm like, we can't find like one or
They're
two
sitting on
guys.
the couch.
I can't be the only one that's like, wanting to get after it. And so
Yeah,
and I think that, tournaments always push me to a level, I
yeah.
never knew what I can be until I was up against somebody else,
Mm,
and I like
mm,
to go
mm.
up against somebody else that's better than me because I want to be pushed. I don't want to have the easy way out. So I think that
Yeah,
competition, I tell parents this all the time. I said, winning is a special thing. Winning is special, and
yeah,
not everybody wins. And when you don't win and you train to win and then you win, that's winning is a special thing. And it only
mm,
and it can't be our participation thing. If you're going to
yeah.
win, you got to get after it and you got to win.
You gotta get it. Yeah.
And so
I
I
also
think,
like doing all styles tournaments. They're the best because I mean, then Mark, you're against people that are kickboxers professionally, and these ones specializes in jiu-jitsu, and the all styles are just. I love those.
yes, yeah, that's really good. Yeah, it's really good. I'm now that I got to know you a little bit more, I'm pleased to hear. I always there's so many studios. I've been around for so long, and I've seen so many in and outs, and I
Yeah,
my reputation is I'm just a hard charger. I always have been. That's the
yeah,
reputation of my students. That's the reputation of my school. I'm a self-defense based instructor,
yeah,
even though I do a traditional style. Krav Maga is super. I don't even call Krav Maga self-defense. I call it self-offense because it's nothing but getting
yeah.
after it. And
Yes.
listening to your mindset, I think is really well suited. Just coming from somebody that's been a black belt for a long time, listening to you speak about, you correct. Most
Yeah.
martial artists are going to walk away from a fight. I do it all the
Yes.
time because
Yeah.
I don't have a fear of the fight. I have a
Mm-mm.
fear of what I can
The
lose,
damage.
right?
Yeah.
And the aftermath of what's about to come down. If I hit
Yeah.
you and you hit
Yeah.
your head and
And they
something
pass
happens to
away.
you, what is
Yeah.
that going to look like in my life? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Are you
Yeah.
worth this time? And I think you're 100% right. Now you push me up against the corner and it's do or
Yeah.
die.
Oh yes.
If we're
Oh
going to be
yes.
in if one of us is going to win, and if it's not going to be me, you will be in the hospital bed right next to me. Trust me on that.
Oh
And
yes.
this is the
Oh
mindset
yes.
that I hope my students have too. And it sounds like that's what you have. It sounds like you got a good passion for the martial arts. It's right. So
I love
so
it. We're gonna have fun.
we have several. So yeah, and then I know people are listening, going, "Didn't she say she was a pastor?" And I said,
Yes, I am.
and so I said, well, sometimes you're a pastor, sometimes you're a master. It just depends on
Yeah.
what it is. Sometimes you need a hug, sometimes you need a headlock. It all just
Yeah.
depends on the person. You
Choke
know
you
what I
out
mean?
of it.
That's it. So
Rianika stranglehold.
that, but it's I got a lot of that too coming up, being in the church and people thinking it's
Yeah.
violent. And I said it's so not violent. when
Yes.
when you get
Amen.
pushed, when violence comes, violence has to be met with violence. It can't be met
Yes.
with a
Yes.
guitar singing kumbaya. It just can't.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
so
Absolutely.
that's definitely up the alley. So well, I think
Yeah.
that yeah, we're already charming on an hour going in. So I
Wow.
think Juanita, what I like you to do towards the end of my thing, I'm going to have you end it with
Yeah.
so some thoughts about what your thought process, your thought about life and about everything else.
Yeah.
So why don't you go ahead and do that?
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you so much for everybody that has joined us. Mark, thank you for inviting me onto your platform. We are going to have loads of fun in January. I can't wait to learn some Krav Maga from you. I've never done that before, so looking forward to that. I just want to leave the audience with the following. Have you ever seen a child in a movie standing with their hand close to a very expensive vase? And they just want to tip it over, and their parents are standing there and they say, "Don't you dare." And that naughty child looks at that parent and he bumps that vase over. And I think, I want to share a "don't you dare" moment with the audience today. And it's not going to be a confrontational one or a reprimanding one. It's going to be a motivational one. I want to tell the audience today, if you are running a race in life and you get tired, don't you dare sit down. You can run a little bit slower, you can stand a little bit, you can catch your breath, but don't you dare sit down, because to get that momentum back is going to be so much harder. If you're a martial artist, whatever you do, if you are facing an obstacle right now and you feel like you just can't go on, just take it slower, take a break. Just taking a break doesn't mean you are giving up, but see my face showing you this and saying, don't you dare ever sit down, because nothing that you face is not, there's always an answer for things that you face. There's nothing that is too big for you. There's nothing that you can't figure out. We are leaders, we are problem solvers. And don't you dare believe that there's only one answer to a question. There's multiple ways to figure something out. We do jiu-jitsu, Mark and I. We anticipate moves. We know there's various ways of getting out of difficult positions. There's always a way out. If something is weighing on you, I was at an all-stars tournament and I fought, we didn't do weight that day, weight classifications, and I fought a very big lady and she fell on me. And it felt like the world had come down. And let me tell you, I got out of it, because there's always a way to get out of something. There's not just one way to solve a problem. So see me, if you want to give up, you see my face telling you, don't you dare sit down, just keep going, and you'll figure it out eventually. Just go with the flow and enjoy life. Thank you, Mark.
That was such an awesome way of ending it. What a great hour I had, Juanita. This will be up. I'll edit it tonight. It'll be up audio version 2, so you can share it on your platform. Thank you for this hour. It was a blessing to me.
Thank you, Mark. You're amazing. See you in Jan.
Bye. See ya.